Welcome to the Scar'An Expanse, a Five Parsecs From Home collaborative campaign. This campaign takes place in a section of fringe space officially known to Unity as the Triton Sector, but known locally as the Scar'An Expanse. Made up of about a dozen star systems, each containing a number of habitable planets, moons and space stations, as well as various asteroid belts, the Scar'An Expanse is held only nominally by Unity forces. Most of the real power lies with various factions who are often at odds with each other. These factions include corporations, local warlords, weird cults, anarchists, and even the odd functioning democracy. It is in this cosmopolitan melting pot that our adventures take place. So, let's meet the crew. Raised on a Unity core world, Zeg Proxim fell in with gangers as a teenager. Busted in a deal gone wrong, the judge offered Zeg two choices: life in prison or enlistment. He chose the latter and made sergeant after 10 years campaigning across Unity space. Zeg was stationed on Kala in the Kavar system of the Triton sector of fringe space, known locally as the Scar'An Expanse, as part of the repatriation force 5 years ago. The planet was pacified in 6 months, after which the Unity bureaucracy promptly forgot about them, leaving the repatriation force to blend in to the local populace as best they could. Zeg and his former corporal, Hodaran, have been scratching out a living as a crew for hire to the small-time, local, quasi-legal outfits, running odd jobs and providing extra muscle when needed. Now, though, they've run afoul of Syndicorp, the big player on Kala. As the latest well-equipped group of Sindhi mercenaries enter the streets ahead of them in Kala Prime, Zeg thinks it might just be time to get off this stinking rock for good and take to the stars. Raised on a planet in fringe space, but not in a Scar'An Expanse, Hodaran's parents scrabbled together enough credits to buy an old beaten freighter when she was about 13 years old. Hodaran crewed on the freighter until, at the age of 25, they landed on a planet that descended into civil war. She took up arms with the local Unity forces after her parents' ship was targeted and destroyed by the insurgents. After the conflict, she formally enlisted in the Unity military and spent the next decade campaigning, helping bring order across the entire domain of Unity. She was assigned to Sergeant Proxim's squad a few years before they were deployed to Kala, her level-headedness making Hodaran the obvious choice as corporal. It wasn't that the sergeant was foolhardy, she mused, as she watched the trained thugs that Syndicorp had sent after them emerging from the shadows. He just doesn't think things all the way through sometimes. Hodaran sighed and racked her shotgun. Known only by his online handle, Jammer is a hacker extraordinaire. Raised on Creel 6, a space station in the Karna system of the Scar'An Expanse, Jammer quickly became the station's troubleshooter for anything computer-related. It was many years before it finally dawned on the station management that Jammer, in an effort to garner fame, was creating nearly all the problems he was solving. Jammer had made quite a name for himself amongst the station's inhabitants and the spacers who passed through, so Tibor, the head of Creel 6, cut a deal. Jammer had to leave on the next transport, and in return Tibor would keep his misdeeds a secret, allowing Jammer to find more work on the back of his growing reputation as a computer genius. Some 5 years later, Jammer found himself on Kala, working freelance for the different corporate factions on the planet, mainly Syndicorp. A double cross and a chance encounter with Hodaran led to Jammer's inclusion on the crew, where he has been a valuable, if somewhat unreliable, asset. He can see the Sindhi mercs just fine, but is focused on the terminal at the far end of the street. Let the shooty folks sort them out, Jammer thinks to himself as he prepares to make a dash. A primitive world makes a good proving ground for Solus. Years Common was raised and put to work as a special agent, her actions helping topple the odd government here, a few warlords there, all for the greater good of the collective. On Kala, though, Years was ordered to commit an atrocity that would have seen an entire town's inhabitants wiped out. Years refused. Her refusal resulted in her disconnection from the collective. As if this wasn't bad enough, to be suddenly alone in her own head, the collective also sent assassins after her to make her pay the ultimate price for her disobedience. Zeg Proxim staggered half-drunk out of the tavern into the alleyway to see what the commotion was all about. He saw the 3-on-1 situation and didn't hesitate, pulling out his blaster and taking one of the assassins down before diving for cover behind a skip, joined a moment later by Years. The addition of Hodarin from inside the tavern sealed the fate of the would-be assassins. In her gratitude, Years pledged her loyalty and allegiance to Zeg, who grinned, clapped her on the back, and guided her inside the tavern for a drink. Years is devoted to the crew, and to Zeg in particular. Their security is a primary concern. So, as the doomed fools that Cindy Corp has set after them line up on the street, Years' hand twitches toward her hand laser, waiting for Zeg to give the word. A rusty bucket of bolts that Jammer and Years have been working on for the last year or so, with occasional help from Hodarin, and less than helpful input from Zeg, of the can you give it more lasers and a hoity-toity accent variety. Coat Hanger stands about 180 centimeters tall and is programmed for 3 things: dealing death, appraising the worth of random loot, and sarcastic conversation. Coat Hanger was programmed well. Nameless remembers little of their time before being taken by the Converted. They've been trying, with some degree of success, to block out the memories of their time with the Converted. For Nameless, life truly began when they tumbled out of the cargo hold of a small freighter, having successfully stowed away after escaping from Monthags, their supposed savior. Monthags had Nameless and several other Converted deconverted. This was no blessing. Monthags needed bodies for labor, and deconverted made for a robust workforce. Upon learning that the name of the planet they had arrived on was Kala, Nameless drifted around until a chance encounter with a group of freelancers in a tough fight led to their inclusion in the crew. Nameless now lives to take their revenge on Monthags, the Converted, and anyone who messes with their adopted family. For now, that means the 5 men arrayed in front of them. Deep inside their hooded cloak, Nameless bares their teeth.